The Nintendo Switch was Nintendo's longest-lasting console, and with a lifespan of 8 years, it had a wide variety of games to choose from. In total, over 12,000 games have been released on the console, and while not all of them are winners, it's safe to say that there is something for just about everyone to be found on the console. Now that the Nintendo Switch 2 is out, I can't help but wonder what games or franchises we could see on this new hardware. Hi, I'm Matt. I like to talk about video games, pop culture, and pretty much anything else that piques my interest. The Nintendo Switch 2 is just starting to build up its library, with only 28 titles being available since launch. Obviously, this doesn't include the 12,000 titles that I mentioned earlier brought over from the first Switch. And while some of those titles and a lot of those titles are great, I'm looking forward to seeing what's new to this new console. What incredible first-party games will we see? What third-party games will come to the console, whether that be brand new titles or games that just haven't been brought over from the Xbox, PS4 and PS5, or PC? What will we get on the Nintendo Switch 2 that just won't be available on the Nintendo Switch? Now, this is not a predictions video. I've already made one of those, which you can watch here. This is simply just me talking about games that I'd love to see on Nintendo's newest console. Today, let's talk about games that I'd like to see on the Nintendo Switch 2. When it comes to a Nintendo Switch 2 wish list, I think the most important titles to get out of the way are first party. At the end of the day, most people are buying a Nintendo console to see what games we will get from, you guessed it, Nintendo. Most hardcore gamers can likely buy a third-party game from some other storefront, or play it on some other console. I don't want to play Call of Duty, I want to play Rhythm Heaven. The Nintendo Switch is proof that Nintendo can pretty much put any franchise it wants on its systems, and they are nearly guaranteed to be a hit. So let's talk about some Nintendo IPs that I'd love to see show up on the Switch 2. Let's get the heavy hitters out of the way first. The franchises that are always a big hit and are the most likely to be seen on this new console. After seeing what Nintendo has been cooking up with Donkey Kong Bonanza, I am so excited to see what they will come up with for the next 3D Mario game. Super Mario Odyssey was critically acclaimed, and for good reason. It was a logical next step for the franchise, while also being a love letter to the games that came before it. I'm very interested to see what the next evolution for the Mario franchise looks like. This is a pretty obvious title, as so many people wait to purchase a Nintendo console until the next big Mario game is unveiled. And with Super Mario Odyssey being nearly 8 years old, it's just time to see our favorite platforming plumber get a new game. And while we are on the topic of the Mario franchise, it wasn't always a 3D platformer, but a 2D side-scroller. And with the success of 2023's Super Mario Bros. Wonder, it would be crazy of Nintendo to not release a new 2D Mario game on the Switch 2. I do hope it isn't straight away though. Super Mario Bros. Wonder was the first new side-scroller since 2012's New Super Mario Bros. U. And in the 11 years following, Nintendo had a lot of time to think about what they should change in the next game, and how they can make it stand out in comparison to 2D Marios of the past. It is my hope that we will see Nintendo do this again with whatever side-scrolling Mario game we get next, rather than pushing a game out as fast as possible to capitalize on the success of its predecessor. Another franchise that seems like a no-brainer for any Nintendo Switch 2 wishlist is The Legend of Zelda. It seems so obvious to me that we will be getting another 3D Zelda game during this generation of the Switch, whether that be a sequel to Tears of the Kingdom or a completely new storyline. On one hand, I wouldn't mind one more chapter in the storyline that started with Breath of the Wild, but with Tears of the Kingdom pretty much being a perfect sequel and a great cap on that world's adventures, a new timeline would be welcome, as it would also give Nintendo the opportunity to use The Legend of Zelda as a showcase for what this new hardware is capable of. Speaking of showing off what the Switch 2 is capable of, let's talk about Mario Maker. A lot of people were surprised that Nintendo did not do a free update to Super Mario Maker 2, allowing level creators to use new features such as the Switch 2's mouse mode. But let's be honest, Nintendo is likely saving that for a whole new game with Mario Maker 3. So if we are to get a Mario Maker 3, I feel like there needs to be a bigger difference beyond just mouse controls. Maybe we could see some additional game styles added, like Mario Wonder, or even some of the old Game Boy titles. Some people have even brought up seeing a Mario Bros. 64 level creator. And while I personally think that's a little far-fetched and makes the game less approachable for newcomers, it is a neat idea to think about. Animal Crossing New Horizons is the second best-selling game on the Nintendo Switch, so it feels clear that Nintendo will want to make a new entry in the long-running franchise on the Switch 2 as soon as possible. New Horizons was my first time playing an Animal Crossing game, and I've spent over 1,200 hours in the game as of the time of recording, making it my most played Nintendo Switch game by a significant amount. A new Animal Crossing game is among my most anticipated games for the Switch 2, as I feel there's a lot that can be done to improve the gameplay of New Horizons, while still pulling ideas from previous entries, overall making another fun entry in this cozy little series. We already know we're getting a Pokemon game on the Switch 2 with Pokemon Legends Z-A, but I hope that the next generation of Pokemon is a significant upgrade for the franchise. Better graphics, better gameplay, maybe even give us some voice acting. After the less than well-received Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, I really think that Nintendo and Game Freak need to come out swinging with whatever they give us next. I'm not asking for insane Elden Ring-like graphics or even a Game of the Year contender. Just improved graphics that show Game Freak means business, while still giving us a steady frame rate. Is that too much to ask? It shouldn't be, right? But I feel like it is. But as I've mentioned before, that is a conversation for another time. Finally, let's talk about one of Nintendo's biggest heavy hitters, Super Smash Bros. There have been rumors that Masahiro Sakurai, director of all of the Smash Bros. Games, used Kirby Air Riders as a negotiation for a new Smash Bros. Title. So it seems likely that we will get something out of the franchise on the Switch 2. Now, I have previously mentioned that I would personally be alright with just getting a definitive edition of Smash Bros. Ultimate, giving us more fighters and stages. But I also recognize that a game like that wouldn't sell nearly as well as a brand new entry in the franchise. On the flip side, a lot of people don't think that Smash Bros. Ultimate can even be topped, and have suggested maybe it's time for a complete reboot of the franchise. While I personally don't want to see a reboot, and would much rather see Nintendo build upon what they already have, after all, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I do understand that a reboot allows the franchise to keep moving forward without people constantly comparing it to its past entries. There are tons of other Nintendo franchises that I would love to see appear on the Switch 2. A new Paper Mario game would be great, especially after seeing that people still love Thousand Year Door after all of these years. And with Nintendo revisiting that playstyle recently, maybe we can finally get the Paper Mario sequel fans have been asking for. Luigi's Mansion 3 is often regarded as one of the best looking games on the Nintendo Switch, and with it being one of the best selling games on the console, I think Luigi's Mansion 4 would make a ton of sense to see on the Switch 2. I'd also love to see a new 2D Metroid game. After the success of Metroid Dread, the highest selling game in the franchise's history, and seeing as we will be getting the next Metroid Prime game this year, I think it would be great to see a new 2D entry on the Switch 2. And there are so many long forgotten Nintendo franchises that I'd love to see on the Nintendo Switch 2. I think that this generation could finally be time to see something new out of the Star Fox and F-Zero franchises. I think seeing franchises like Wario Land and Golden Sun would have such positive fan feedback. And why not? Let's throw Mario Paint into the mix as a digital exclusive. With the Switch 2's mouse controls, it would be a lot of simple fun to see a sequel to the SNES game. That's all I have to say about first-party exclusives, but you don't think we're done, do you? Far from it, because there's a whole other beast that Nintendo have offered fans on the Nintendo Switch that I think has a lot of room to expand on the Switch 2. Nintendo Switch Online. Nintendo Switch Online launched back in 2018, giving us access to some of Nintendo's best games from their NES library, and it's only expanded from there, giving us titles from the SNES and Game Boy, and with the introduction of the expansion pack, Nintendo 64, Game Boy Advance, and even the Sega Genesis. With the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2 came GameCube titles, and Nintendo has already given us quite a list of games to play, launching with The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker, F-Zero GX, and Soul Calibur 2. And there's even more to come! Super Mario Strikers, Super Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, Chibi Robo, Fire Emblem, Path of Radiance, Pokemon Colosseum, and Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness. But there are so many GameCube games that I'd love to see get added. Mario Kart Double Dash would be a welcome addition, considering every Mario Kart has been added to Switch Online on their respective consoles so far. Wave Race Blue Storm was a launch title for the GameCube, similar to Luigi's Mansion, so seeing that on the service would be great. Star Fox Adventures and Star Fox Assault, Wario World, and the original Animal Crossing would be fantastic additions to Switch Online. Mario Party 4 and Mario Party 5 would be fun to see added, since we already have Mario Party 1 through 3 on the Nintendo 64, and these are the only two GameCube titles that don't require the GameCube mic. But then again, with the addition of a mic on the Switch 2, maybe all of the GameCube Mario Party games would work. I'd love to see Super Smash Bros. Melee added, but considering we haven't seen the original Smash Bros. Get added to N64, I doubt we would ever see Melee. And I haven't even talked about third-party games. Super Monkey Ball and Super Monkey Ball 2, Sonic Heroes, Simpsons Hit and Run, Beautiful Joe, Twin Snakes, Geist, and so many more would be welcome additions to the Switch 2's NSO library. But with a console that could last another 8 years, Nintendo isn't going to stop at just the GameCube. We will likely see other consoles added to Nintendo Switch Online and NSO plus Expansion Pass. Depending on how well motion controls work, I think we could see the Wii added to NSO, giving us games like Wii Sports and Super Mario Galaxy, and maybe even the Wii version of Twilight Princess. We could see the Nintendo DS added, adding games like Mario Kart DS, New Super Mario Bros., and maybe even Nintendogs using mouse controls as the stylus. Maybe Nintendo can play nice with Sega again, and give us something like Sega Dreamcast. Games like Jet Set Radio and Sonic Adventures would be welcome additions to Nintendo Switch Online. Like I said earlier, I think people who are die-hard Nintendo fans are buying this console to simply play Nintendo games. And between some new first-party games as well as older games offered through NSO, there would definitely be a lot for those die-hard fans to take in and enjoy. But to everyone else, third-party games are just as important as first-party. And there are plenty of third-party titles that I think would be a blast to play on the Nintendo Switch 2. One of my favorite franchises to play is Fallout. I love diving into the retro-futuristic setting while roaming around the post-apocalyptic atmosphere. I think this franchise would have been a great addition on the Nintendo Switch, but outside of Fallout Shelters, nothing ever came of it. I think this generation would be a great time to release Fallout 4 or Fallout 76 onto Nintendo consoles. Even games like Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas would be great to see running on the Switch 2. And while we are talking about Bethesda games, there are plenty of other titles that would make great third-party games. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, the Oblivion remake, or Doom: The Dark Ages would be some great options on the console. I also think that developers should really push more Switch 2 editions of their previously released free online games, similar to how Fortnite got a large upgrade for the console. Games like Fall Guys and Apex Legends are both definitely due for a change, maybe even a complete overhaul. Both are perfectly okay and do their jobs for the most part, but I'd like to see these games get updated to look closer to their counterparts on other consoles. I'd also like to see games like Marvel Rivals make its way to the Nintendo Switch 2. There are so many games that would truly blow me away to see on the Switch 2 due to their complex and breathtaking visuals. Some such titles include Red Dead Redemption 2, Baldur's Gate 3, or Forza Horizon 5. Nintendo and Microsoft have already come forward to say that Call of Duty games are coming to the Nintendo Switch, and I'd be very surprised if we didn't see that deal come to fruition on the Nintendo Switch 2. I think it would be great to see mouse controls in the Switch 2 version of the next Call of Duty game. But my biggest hope for the Nintendo Switch 2 support from third-party publishers is that I hope we will see more day and date releases between the Switch 2 and other consoles. Obviously, the original Switch just didn't have enough power to make many of the ports work, and the publishers that tried didn't always do the best. There were some amazing ports, no doubt, but not all of them were able to work. Seeing third-party games on Xbox and PlayStation before trying it on Switch can often be disheartening, even if that is only a brief setback. But I hope developers will look at the Switch 2 sales and decide to make these ports be released right alongside of the rest. And with that, I believe I have talked about every Nintendo Switch 2 game that I'd like to see on this new console. With Nintendo's vast library of beloved franchises, the possibilities are endless. And adding a lot more Switch 2 NSO titles could really keep up the momentum. But no console is without its third-party games. So Nintendo should really try to get as many great third-party titles as they can, and hopefully deliver some green ports to showcase that this new console can handle bigger, better games. But for now, all we can do is hope and imagine what surprises Nintendo has in store for us this generation. There are countless amounts of franchises and titles that could appear on the Nintendo Switch 2. So what games are on your wish list? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. If you liked this video, please give it a like, and be sure to follow me on Twitter and Bluesky for goofy takes and updates on videos to come. But whatever you do, I just want to thank you for watching this video. We will have plenty of games to discuss the further that we get into this generation. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell to keep up to date on all of my latest videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.